Hello and welcome to the National Debate. I'm Madhavdas G. Viewers, in his first address to the U.S. Congress since taking office, the U.S. President Trump didn't hold back, laying out a bold vision for his country and taking direct aim at key issues on the global stage. Amongst the highlights of his speech, Trump turned the spotlight on a growing tariff war, notably mentioning India as he accused the country of charging the U.S. unfairly. Now, President Trump has announced plans to impose reciprocal tariffs on most of America's trading partners, including India, China, Canada, and Mexico, starting the 2nd of April. Trump's made it quite clear that the current trade system is unfair to the U.S. and has always been. Donald Trump's presidency has also seen multiple flip-flops in the past. After warning of tariffs with Canada and Mexico, now Donald Trump has announced a pause on those tariffs as well, at least until the 2nd of April. On this edition of the National Debate, we'll discuss how Donald Trump is redefining the world order and whether India and the world are prepared for the new America that we're talking about.
A lot of questions. Let's start from the beginning.
Sure.
First of all, during the war, everybody has problems, even you, but you have nice ocean and don't feel now, but you will feel it in the future. God bless.
You don't know that.
God bless.
God
bless. You will not have a war.
Don't tell us what we're going to feel. We're trying to solve a problem. Don't tell us what we're going to feel.
I'm not telling you.
Because you're in no position to dictate that. Remember this.
I'm not
You're in no position to dictate what we're going to feel. We're going to feel very good.
You will feel influence.
We're going to feel very good and very strong.
You will feel influence.
You're right now not in a very good position. You've allowed yourself to be in a very bad position, and he happens to be right about it.
From the very beginning of the war.
You're not in a good position. You don't have the cards right now. With us, you start having cards.
Cards.
Right now, you don't. Yeah, you're playing cards.
Mr. President.
You're playing cards.
Serious.
You're gambling with the lives of millions of people. You're gambling with World War III. You're gambling with World War III. And what you're doing is very disrespectful to the country, this country. It's back to you. Far more than a lot of people said they should have.
Major Dhruv Katoch, there are, of course, narratives on both sides, and that's understandable. It is a time of war. But what's the end game here? You have Trump, who, of course, as we were discussing earlier, is a businessman. He's looking at peace. He's, of course, talked about the fact that there are millions of lives at stake and have been lost, and that shouldn't continue. But at the end of the day, with Zelensky also warming up to EU and the EU countries coming up, if you heard President Macron's speech, for instance, it almost, was like he was, urging his countrymen and Europe to, sort of come together and be prepared for a war against Russia. What are we looking at in that context? Are we looking at tempers cooling, or are we looking at them flaring up in Europe? Because if you heard the person from Ukraine, you heard Alexander Beletsky there, they're almost prepared and convinced that they are going to surge ahead and continue fighting this war. Major Katoch.
You see, Madhav, I think what Europe wants is for Ukraine to keep fighting to the last Ukrainian. But they are not going to get into the fight. They are not going to get involved. They may give a bit of money here and there. Even that is going to collapse. Without America's intelligence support, without America's financial backing, they can do nothing. Europe has lost the power to defend itself, leave alone defend Ukraine. So I think what you're going to see now is that this mindless war, in my view, you see Zelensky has been egged onto this war by the NATO powers. It was totally unnecessary. But now that you've got this war, 3 years have been fought, great losses have been made, there will be, in my view, a ceasefire which will come very shortly on as is where is basis. I'm afraid Ukraine is going to lose the Donbass. The Crimea was never theirs. So the land boundary which the Russians wanted from Russia through the Donbass onto Crimea, they will get. If they continue with this war, it is my belief that they will lose Odessa also. And once Ukraine loses Odessa, they lose control or they lose access to the Black Sea. That will make them a landlocked state. They still have an opportunity to salvage what they have. Take this peace deal. There's one point I wish to make. On this particular war, everybody keeps talking of it as a third world war may erupt and all that. Please get no wrong ideas. This is a local European war. It is a tribal war between two European countries. It has got nothing to do with the world. China is not involved, India is not involved, Americas are not involved, Africa is not involved. It's just one part of Europe, and that not even the whole of Europe, one part of Europe. I think wisdom dictates that Zelensky should come to a deal the best he can get.
Okay.
Otherwise, he's in trouble.
Let me get in Alexander on that. Alexander, there's a sense that perhaps, even the return of the land when about a month and a half into the fighting, if I remember correctly, in 2022, when that was offered to Ukraine, did not agree to that, and then it lost that deal, is what Russia says. Now, again, the kind of situation that we are looking at is that, make the best of what you have at this point of time, is the advice coming in from the Major General here in our studio. Do you think that that's a practical solution? Because, as time goes by, perhaps making a deal, getting the land returned to Ukraine, all of that is going to be very, very difficult. Alexander.
We just heard all this stuff from all these war criminals since the very beginning of invasion and the very beginning of the war. So that Ukraine will lose, Ukraine will fall in 3 days, and all this blah, blah, blah things. But we had 200,000 men which were come back to Ukraine in the few days of the beginning of war, start fighting Russians. And I also, with my family, stayed in Kiev, and we decided to fight with my daughters and with my family. And we will do it, believe me, Mr. Markov. And you will be a war criminal, or you will be imprisoned soon, or you will be killed by Ukrainian special operations forces.
Let's not get dramatic, please. It's not nice for us to talk about killing co-panelists, etc. Let's keep the debate civil, please, as I've said earlier. But Dr. Markov, what would be an acceptable solution for Russia? Would Russia be willing to give certain parts of the land? There are, of course, a lot of territory, a good part of Ukraine that has been occupied. What part of it would Russia be willing to give back to ensure that there is peace in the region? Because Ukraine is demanding security guarantees at this point of time. United States not ready to give that. And the point being made by EU and Ukraine is that how do we know that Russia won't launch an attack again, say in a few months or a few years from now?
First of all, I think from Ukrainian side you invited not expert, but some kind of very aggressive, psychologically not a stable person. And it's first. Secondly, about peace deal. A Russian suggestion, it's very easy, that should be not break during the fighting, but it should be a real peace, real all security guarantee for all sides. For Ukraine, main security guarantee should be coming back to democracy. Ukraine, when it was democratic country before the military coup in 2014, from 1991 until 2014, Ukraine lived in full security nearby Russia. So Ukraine should be back to the democratic system. All political prisoners should be liberated in Ukraine. All prohibited political parties and media should be to act. And Russian language, of course, should get official status. Russian language is 70% of the Ukrainian
Quick response from Vibhuti Jha. I want to bring in Abhijit as well. Vibhuti Jha, Trump has a very difficult task at hand. Talking about peace in Ukraine and Russia is perhaps easier than, just making a statement. While there are, some baby steps that have been made, just look at the hardened positions of our panelists right here. And that just goes to show how easy or difficult it will be for these two leaders to ensure that there is a lasting peace in Europe. Vibhuti Jha.
Thank you. There is, in my study of history, I have not come across a single instance, and I'm open to correction, where there is a historical precedence of a country winning a war with other people's support. That's the tragedy of Ukraine. Millions of people and thousands of people are losing lives for the shenanigans played upon by NATO and European people who went back on their promise to Russia. That is a documented history. That is a documented fact. Trump is only trying to do, which I recall somebody I knew, Stephen Cohen, who had written a book on the Russia war, who was a New York Democrat, who we acknowledged in a very interesting, very nice award ceremony. And he said, I'm not voting for Trump. I have never voted for Trump. But on Russia, Trump is right. Because he said, and he has consulted with all the US presidents, and he said very clearly that both the countries have amazing ability to self-destruct each other or destroy each other in a nuclear warfare. You cannot be not talking to your friend. And that's the theme that Trump is taking forward. is that you cannot not negotiate.
Well, will President Trump be successful in that endeavor? There are many, many challenges, as we saw in the Oval Office. There are attempts to, of course, broker some kind of understanding between Ukraine and US at this point of time. What really will happen? Will there be lasting peace in Europe? Those are several questions. And of course, the impact of all of these tariffs, globally speaking, when it comes to the economics of it, all of these are important questions indeed. Abhijit Iyer, Mithran, Major General Dhruv Katoch, David Sofair, Vibhuti Jha, Dean Baxendale, Dr. Sergei Markov, as well as Alexander Beletsky, Andrew K.P. Leung. Thank you so much for joining us on this edition of the National Debate.